I'm ABX Toycat, and good news and bad news about the new Minecraft update. The good news is that it's not a bug fix update, it's also not a major one like 1.21, but instead is one of the new monthly minor updates that Minecraft's been trialing for the past few years on the Bedrock version of the game. This one does include some new features, but the bad news is there's only really two very exciting new ones. The rest are still very useful bug fixes and quality of life improvements they're worth knowing about nonetheless, but just keep in mind that there are really two big features in this update, and let's share what both of those are and all of the rest as we dive into everything inside of 1.20. By the way, like the video or whatever YouTubers say at the beginning here is an engagement bait, because instead I'm going to say the very first thing you need to know about this preview is that it was technically two separate updates that were combined together into one. 1.20 existed as a whole series of previews, but it never actually came out, and so some of these features might sound familiar even if they're not in Minecraft yet. The first of these is very exciting because the heavy core now takes up the full inventory / item frame slot. It used to be very tiny by comparison. This is a cool change. It's a very fun and it's one that really represents the significance of this item, one of the rarer ones in Minecraft. There are also new game tips. You'll get them for swimming, using the touch D-pad, running away from hostile mobs, escaping powdered snow, and also using emotes, which is interesting. Then there is a sound effect to show a player has looted a given particular vault. This is one which is very interesting. I can't say I personally notice it, but go to a vault and you might be able to tell without looking at it whether it's been looted or not. You'll also be able to tell what loot is going to come from a vault because it's now dependent on level, position, and player seed. This means that if you copy your world, you're not going to get different loot each time, and theoretically it might mean that given seeds will always have, say, a heavy core or wind burst from a vault. That's something I'll have to be testing for Seed Sunday perhaps, but for now, just keep that in mind. It's something that is very intriguing sounding to me. For now though, this vault right here is always going to give me emeralds, poison arrows, and very disappointing loot. But what isn't disappointing loot is witch drops. So if you haven't seen, witch drops on Java have been improved since 1.21, but the change has finally come to Bedrock because witches will always drop 4 to 8 redstone dust. They used to have some of the most inconsistent drops in Minecraft, but now they will be a farmable, consistently farmable, source of redstone, and so killing just 2 witches got me 13 redstone. This is very handy for my redstoners out there. How many of you are there? Let's be honest. Speaking of things to be honest about, the petrified oak slab now has its own block ID, but will behave as expected, so it's still a petrified oak slab, which means it's a stone slab, just with the oak slab texture. It has a really deep history going over a decade back into Minecraft, but now it will, it's been flattened a little bit better, and so should work for technical players that little bit better. Trial chambers now generate much less frequently in the deep dark. This is an intriguing change. So too is the player no longer taking damage while still in the loading screen / dimension switch screen. This is so overdue. The number of times I've seen someone die that way, because if you go to the Nether, say a wither skeleton goes through the portal, when you go back to the overworld, the wither skeleton will start attacking you immediately, and it's just disastrous. Thank you, Minecraft, for fixing this. This does bring us closer to the big question of this update, because one of the, these little mini updates, these minor monthly updates, are going to contain quite a few big things in this update cycle between 1.21 and 1.22. One of those, of course, being hardcore. This is a crucial step in making that happen. Speaking of that, wind charge projectiles can now be summoned with the /summon command. Let's see what happens when we try that, actually. So I'm going to summon a wind charge. Not something you expect to do, and I'm just going to do it right here and see what happens. Oh, haha, wow. That's like the perfect place to be hit, apparently. Speaking of the perfect place to be hit, the perfect place to hit a breeze is somewhere that you don't have a lot of redstone. However, if you play a mob griefing off, just a reminder, this is a cheat technically, but if you do decide to do this in your Minecraft world, which lots of people, especially when you're playing partially in creative anyway, will do, if you do have a breeze attack you, as we're going to right here, it's not going to activate buttons and trapdoors and all the other things. Something useful to know. Speaking of useful to know, the mace up until now, here's something important. Stairs and slabs will now correctly place, which means that I can place them all the same way up, which includes going, say, upside down way up, and it's going to allow me to place in a row. This is one of the coolest Bedrock features that has been broken for a while. They did work out a fix, but that fix broke some other things. Now they've re-implemented it without breaking things. So just to show you one more time with the acacia slabs, I can place them all on the top half here, and it's going to continuously place in that same direction. You can see how sometimes it's tempted not to, but it knows that if you're placing slabs in a row, you want them all going the right way. thank God for this. This is one of those cool improvements that you would have just accepted otherwise, but I'm glad they fixed regardless. Also, the mace smash attack no longer deals knockback to that player's tamed mobs. So I'll show you this right here, right now. Here is my mace. My mace is amazing. I'm going to attack a sniffer, but all of my two dogs bounced in the air, but didn't take. Sorry, my cat and Harrison's hamster. They might have bounced in the air, but they did in fact take no damage, which is pretty cool if you ask me. Speaking of things that are cool if you ask me, let's go to the next section now, because that was everything in 1.21.10, but as you'll know, 1.21.10 never released, and instead we had 1.21.2. This introduced quite a few features that were actually from the future, and so tell me if you recognize anything familiar here, because these are the previews which finished fairly recently, and inside of those we had things like trial chamber mobs now dropping equipped items when killed. Again, this is already in the game, but it came from these previews, so it's something that is worth knowing about. If you didn't know, this was a big problem when 1.21 came out, and it has been fixed for a few weeks now, but again, it definitely is fixed now. Also definitely fixed now is the mushroom drop chance from mushroom blocks being increased from 10% to 11.11%. This is such hilarious Java parity, like, you know, the fact that anyone even notices this is kind of fun in my opinion, but they have fixed it, and so now when you break mushrooms, you get a mushroom from it like this, and 1 in every 9 times as opposed to 1 in every 10 times. It's a small improvement, but it's one of those cases where I think going for the Java version is better. I think Minecraft developers have a big problem of just assuming that Minecraft Java is default and Minecraft Bedrock is wrong. Even the people who should be working on Bedrock and advocating for this version of the game seem to make that mistake, and so it's it's cool to see an example where, like, actually fully warranted. This is a case where Java, I think, got it right, because I think that even the rate you get it at right now sometimes feels really harsh and unfair, and so cool to see an improvement on that. Speaking of improvements, here's an improvement to the Zoglin. Zoglids will now play angry sounds when chasing players/mobs. Do you want to hear them? You know what, let's let him chase me. You hear that noise right there? That's him being angry. Do you like that sound? Does that improve things? I hope it improves things, because also, this is the second big feature I would stay keep your eye out for. I think the redstone one was the first big feature, and the second big feature is this: crafting quartz bricks from blocks of quartz will yield 4 instead of 1. This is something that is so huge. Quartz bricks was one of the most expensive recipes in Minecraft. This isn't to say that it's more efficient than regular blocks of quartz, but it used to be that this 4 blocks of quartz, which was 16 quartz, which is so hard to get your hands on, used to give you 1 quartz bricks. It was so brutal in my opinion, that's why everyone just used the stonecutter. Now you can craft it that way, which is nice. Also, oxidized copper, this block right here, will yield 2 slabs instead of 1. I don't know why it was ever 1, I assume a mistake somewhere, but look at that, the slabs work just fine, and that's something that is more than fine. Speaking of things that are more than fine, let's continue our little crafter railway over to these blocks, because they'll no longer push you when players activate them. So if I'm standing here and then there's a redstone pulse that comes through here, as you can see, I'm not pushed. I'm standing inside the fence gate. This is a bit of parity that I think is probably important. It's one of those weird calls, because this is a weird situation, but weirder still is when you get nudged by the feature, right? But as you can see, I can stand right here and it's not going to affect anything. It's very weird, honestly. But yeah, I'm now standing inside of a trapdoor, something possible thanks to 1.21.20. Speaking of 1.21.20, the pillar quartz block, which is not the quartz brick, but instead is crafted. You know, actually, can you craft it at the stonecutter too? You can. So this is the pillar quartz block, and it used to be called the quartz pillar on Bedrock. This was the first renaming they've done. Just keep in mind the next update is renaming dozens more items, but this is pillar quartz, and it works just great and fine, and you can use it to make a H, or you could use it to make an O if you wanted to, or you could use it to make any letter in the alphabet if you feel like it. But yeah, am I saying that you watching this video are part of Santa Claus's phrase, or am I saying, oh, did you think I was going to call you a promiscuous woman? Because that's definitely not what I'm doing in this video. Instead, I'm going to reference another change that came in 1.21.2. Rare loot now has an 8% chance of dropping from ominous bolts. This is a fun thing to me, because this came in a 1.21.20 preview, but they actually brought out the feature before 1.21.10. If you'll forgive this little bit of nerdiness about the update versions, this is an intriguing change, because it does show something very interesting in my opinion, that Minecraft can release emergency fixes sooner, sooner, and this was considered enough of an emergency to fix, and I'm glad that it was. But also, Apple Pencil is now recognized as a valid input method. Oh yeah, Apple Pencil users of the world unite! We can finally enjoy Bedrock the way it was meant to be enjoyed, with a pencil from your favorite man, Tim Apple.
Wow.
Anyway, with that said, text fields on signs will no longer carry over on Xbox. One of my editors uses it exclusively in Xbox, by the way. It's got all sorts of fun things come from that, by the way. But they are very, very pleased about this, as you probably should be. I personally do find signs on Xbox to be near worthless if you don't have a keyboard, but this is something that will improve those. Also, leads now attached to the front of boats rather than the center. This is a cool change. By the way, you know, just while I was playing around with this world, I couldn't help but be curious. Do you think that you should be able to knock a boat using wind charges? I have wind charges exclusively for this reason here, by the way. And so the answer to this question is surprising, because sometimes yes and sometimes no. I don't know what the actual set of circumstances are, but also you can eventually break a boat by throwing enough of these at it, so just keep in mind that this is a very bizarre thing to do. Okay, I probably didn't need to spend that long talking about wind charges and pigs in boats, so instead let's come back to this and focus on the fact that double tool flowers will no longer break and drop as an item upon upgrading a world to 1.21. This is great for when you first load up a world after 1.21 has happened, so maybe if you're loading up an old world for the first time, it's not a bug that I've encountered, but it's great that they're fixing these sorts of old compatibility things. Also, it's great that drowns will now spawn in rivers individually rather than in groups of 2, and also they can spawn in aquifers and dripstone caves. A bit of a double-edged sword. This makes rivers a little bit safer, but makes aquifers and dripstone caves a little bit more dangerous, but ultimately, if you're just trying to get your hands on a trident, you might appreciate this a bit more, except in rivers where actually maybe you don't. Also, something you might appreciate, and this is one, it's a very niche building thing for builders, but if you've ever made double doors, you'll know that the doors kind of work in reverse like this. You can now do this with any type of door. It doesn't have to be the exact same type, and so even two very different types of doors, like say waxed copper and a spruce doors, will now work as a double door. It's very, very strange. This is one of those weird Minecraft mechanics that's so handy, but you never actually think about that much. But if you place two doors next to each other in a way where one of them should be flipped, it will flip one of them, which is fascinating. Although what happens with this door now, it could make two separate sets of double doors. Could we make all of our doors open from the left just by doing it this way? The answer is no, apparently. Finally, we have large chests no longer disappear when near the edge of the screen. As you can see, even though there's a double chest right there in the corner of my field of view, I can still see it. This is a bizarre bug that I'm glad they fixed, but the bigger problem, in my opinion, is that beacons and chests alike both aren't visible outside the render distance, but, you know, this is me being picky at this point. Speaking of being picky, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Just a reminder, there is nothing to see here, except a waste of my time, and a goodbye, but in German. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please do consider subscribing. It is the best way to see more videos like this and learn about the latest in Minecraft updates, both when they're in the preview and beta phase and also when they come out. And also just consider that there is something very exciting happening not just today, but also next Tuesday, because the Timeless Pack has officially passed certification. This means that it will be available on Tuesday, and so if you're looking for the Xbox 360 experience in terms of all of the elements on the UI, in terms of the limited size world with smaller biomes, but also in terms of the music disc hunt and all of the other things that you'll love, including my 30 structures that I built last week, you'll be able to check that out next Tuesday, the 20th of August. I am so excited to finally have a release date, and I'm also so excited to be working with Agent Mindstorm on this. He is one of the best people for making conversion packs of not just Minecraft into other things, but also ways to improve Minecraft, including stuff like the preview hider that you'll notice in videos like these. There are all sorts of handy things that come straight from him, and he has been helping and doing, honestly, the majority of the work to make a console-style experience in the Bedrock version, and if you want precisely that, the Timeless Pack is coming out on Tuesday. With that said though, thank you for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed, because I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.